Thank you all for coming. I'm going to try and make this a fun session. So we're talking about gamification and it being the antidote to modern advertising. So it's quite a bold statement, but why is that? So trust is at an all-time low. So I've got a couple of headlines coming up on screen here. One in particular, Marketing Week, so arrogance around brand purpose, making consumers distrust ads. We've got people saying consumer trust, all-time low. And we all know it. I mean, we probably all feel it, that actually ads are just taking over, and therefore people are starting to move more towards using things like ad blockers. So the ad blocker is rising, and that's a huge problem for all of us marketers if our ads aren't even reaching the people that we want them to reach. And this is going to continue to rise. Who in here actually, hands up if you use an ad blocker? Yeah, quite a lot of you. Anyone that does PPC ads in the room is going to not be so friendly about that. But yeah, it's a problem that's happening. So we spoke to 2,000 consumers across the UK, and we did a piece of research. And you can download the whole research paper on our website. And this research confirmed this lack of trust. So 58% of people said that they believe that online ads have little or no influence on their buying behavior. Now, obviously, that's saying that they believe it doesn't have an influence. We all know that it probably does have some influence, but actually they're actively trying not to be influenced by ads. So therefore, this is a problem for us. Young people are probably still our best audience. So young people do admit that online ads do have an impact on them, with 53%. But you see, as the age goes up, the influence drops. So the older you get, the more cynical you get around ads, it would appear. So consumers are becoming numb to our online tactics. So this means that brands need to start to identify new ways, new touch points across that customer journey to help to build relationships with that audience that's not necessarily from an ads perspective. And building these relationships is what will cut through the apathy that we're seeing out there. So what do we mean by gamification? So gamification is it's the using of gameplay elements and putting them into a non-traditional gaming context. But the idea is that we're getting the attention and the engagement in the brain that would occur the same as you were if you're playing a game. So our research found that 93% of people say that gamification is engaging. And these were users that had actually experienced gamification before. So within our study, we made sure at the start that they understood what we meant by gamification, whether they had experienced it or not. But 93% of those that had experienced it said that it was engaging. And respondents also admitted that this does influence their behavior, with 60%, and this was all across all of our data, 60% said they would be more likely to buy from a brand if they played a game that they enjoyed with that brand. And this stat rose to 86% for those that had actually experienced gamification before. So this is huge. This is people are telling us, do games and we'll buy from you. So some really great stats. And that's why we believe that this could be the antidote to UK consumer apathy. So why gamify? Consumers are more emotional than rational, and that's a fact. We all are. This is a great quote. So we live in a world where we're taught from the start that we're thinking creatures that feel, but actually we're feeling creatures that think. So trying to tap into emotions is really, really important in marketing. So there is a huge untapped opportunity. Only 31% of the 2,000 people that we spoke to had actually experienced gamification, and only 16% had experienced it more than once. So actually there's not many brands doing this at the moment, and we're starting to see it come through a bit more. People are doing it on Instagram stories, that type of thing, but it's still a really untapped marketing opportunity. And remember, I already said this stat, but 86% of people said they would be more likely to buy if they'd had a good experience playing a game. So young people are our best opportunity. 91% would be open to playing games with brands, and 84% said they would buy from a brand that they enjoy playing a game with. So that's huge. So we do really need to consider whose market it is that we're targeting and who we want to reach out to. But young people is a great option. They also ranked games as the most memorable branded activity in front of online and traditional advertising, and even live games and live experiences. So that's a fantastic opportunity, and it really is your future customer. Female versus male. Now, stereotypically, people would have probably expected to see male to be in front of men to be in front of women, but actually women are leading from their interest in gamification. So if you're here and your demographic that you're targeting is mainly women, then gamification is still definitely an option for you. So now let's do some neuroscience technobabble. So we're going to start by just talking about dopamine. So dopamine is a transmitter it's a neurotransmitter that's in the brain, and it helps take signals from the brain to the muscles in our bodies to make us move. And it also makes some people feel good. So it's a really important chemical in the brain. And dopamine is released during the anticipation of pleasure, whether you achieve it or not. People often think that dopamine is actually addictive, but it's not the bit that's addictive, actually. It's actually just reminding you of that feeling of achievement that you have previously felt when you've played a game or when you've done something you've enjoyed. So by dopamine being released, it's a really good thing. And it simply just helps us to remember that feeling and feel engaged and want to continue on. There was a really great study by Stanford University, and that showed that a video gamer's brain lit up when they were playing a game. And the bits of the brain that actually lit up were areas that were showing that they were being rewarded, motivation, learning, etc. So it really shows that there is an increased focus and fast decision-making happening while we're playing games and while they're engaged with your brand. So how do you get gamification right? This is a case study, and you can actually come and play this game on our stand later if you'd like to. So we launched this game in 2017, just as the premiership was about to start. And we actually released it as Reflect Digital, so we didn't have a brand behind us. We're just a digital marketing agency, so we were fairly unknown. We only put £200 behind paid ad spend on Facebook. But within 5 weeks, we managed to have over 86,000 visits, and that's huge. I mean, we still get tens of, 100 or so visits even a day at the moment. So 54,000 of those users were unique within those first 5 weeks. And 10% of people were handing over their data to us, saying that we could contact them again. And bearing in mind, we're an unknown brand. And the thing about this game, so you literally had a one-page scene and you had to find 50 football clubs, and it was a catchphrase style game. So you are saying what you see, for example, and there's 50 clues, so it's going to take some time. So actually that was quite well orchestrated as part of the game, because it meant people were more likely to sign up and hand over their details, because you were less likely to be able to complete the game in one sitting. On average, people spent 12 minutes on a single-page website. So anyone that knows their web stats will know that's quite a long time, especially to be on one page on a website. But we actually had 15% of people spending over 40 minutes in a sitting playing the game, because they were so engaged and they wanted to continue playing it. One of the best bits of driving traffic to this was the PR we got around it. So Sport Bible posted about it, shared it. We had brands like Betfair sharing it. We had Planet Football. The football forums themselves were going absolutely crazy. The moment we got the Sport Bible link, we had 2,000 people on the site within about 10 seconds. So we picked a topic area that was really of interest. And actually, we all know football fans, they love quizzes. They love to prove their knowledge. They love to beat each other and be competitive. So it actually really worked for us in that sense. And this continues to drive traffic and data even today, 2 years later. These were some of the links that we got. We were also nominated for an award at the Football Business Awards and at the Search Awards. So one of the reasons that this game was so successful for us was all the links that it drove. So we actually then from that have had increased rankings across the search engines, which has helped us build our profile online. So that was fine 50. When we came back to the data, we asked consumers what their thoughts were on the types of games, and the top games were ones that were challenging the brain, so knowledge-based games or puzzle games. So we've all seen brands where they've done maybe simple games where it's just a simple concept, running along and you've got to jump over things or that type of thing. People don't mind that, but they're going to be less engaged. People like their brain to be challenged and like to be using their knowledge. So they need to be part of an integrated digital strategy, though. There's no point in coming away from this talk thinking, right, we've got to have a game and that's it, and just going and putting a game in place. It needs to hold the user's attention, and you actually need to start at the end of the game. What do you actually want to get out of it before you even start thinking about what that game's going to be? And that combination of getting the game right and then the strategy around it right, it really is a powerful one-two punch. And if you think about it, even if you have a game, so Find 50 was obviously great for us because of the time involved that people spent on the site. But even if you engage people for 30 seconds, they are actively with your brand for that 30 seconds, as opposed to if you've got a TV advert or a radio advert where they're passively maybe driving in their car or dual screening, playing on their phone, and not necessarily engaged with your brand. So many brands do throw away their money on games. So, I was with a high street brand just a week ago, and I told them they have a game on their website that they didn't even know existed on their website. So it was before their marketing team's time, and it was a bit of a pointless game. It had no data capture. There was nothing about it. So you need to really make sure you think about a game, because games can get quite expensive. So I'm going to go through the do's and the don'ts. So starting with your campaign goals, don't hang all your hopes on one thing. Think about multiple touch points of what it is that you want to get out of that game. So it might be data, it might be the PR links that you might want to get from it, it might be insights into your customers. There's so many different things, and actually the insight piece is really interesting. If you think about it, you might be able to build a game that tells you something about your audience that then allows you to bucket them off differently, so that you can then talk to them about a different message going forward based on how they performed in your game or the answers that they gave you. So you can start to get really, really clever with them. Consider your audience. So if you're a brand that speaks to lots of different people, don't necessarily try and do a game that works for all of those demographics. Think quite niche about the demographic that you want to target. And it may be that if you're building a game that actually you could put different content in there to use for different audiences, but try to be quite specific, because like our football game, the success came because people love football and they really engaged with it. So it's trying to make sure that you've got the right subject matter. Conduct research and tests. So when we make our Find 50 games, for example, we start by coming up with some ideas. We then will sketch out some of the clues, and then we'll go and put them in front of the right kind of audience to say, could you answer these clues? How do you find it? Is it too difficult? Etc. And then as we start to get that feedback back, we can start to hone in and refine our clues, and then end up building out the full game from there. And then once the game scene's ready, we'll do more testing. So make sure you're testing it with your audience, because you don't want it to be too hard, but you also don't want it to be too simple. Think about the motivation. Now, actually, the Find 50 game, when we first launched it, we did have a prize. We had a £100 voucher. But when I told the person they'd won, they were like, oh, I didn't even realize there was a prize. I just love playing the game. So it depends on your brand and the type of game as to how much of a motivation you need. You might need that hook to really draw them in, or it might be that you've hit the nail on the head with something where people just want to play it. Consider achievements. So if it's a long game, you might want to have different milestones. We're building a game for a brand at the moment that at different levels you win different prizes, which keeps people motivated, keeps them interested. Think about tracking the success. So we've been able to use Tag Manager to tag everything up. We know the wrong answers. So actually we can then at a later date, if we want to, do PR around maybe the top wrong answer that people gave, and especially if it was a funny one, for example. So really think about everything you might be able to track and all the different results that you'll be able to get from that. How will you get traction? So we start thinking about the outreach before we're even building the game. So for example, Sport Bible, we knew we wanted them to promote our games. So before we'd even started, we started to look at the journalists that we needed to speak to, and we actually put together, I think it's the next point, a sneak preview. So we put a sneak preview out there for people to see, the journalists to see before we actually launched the game. And then on day one of launching the game, we had coverage immediately because they were already bought into it. Consider all devices, remembering mobile. We can't forget that now. Most people are playing on mobile, so you need need to make sure whatever game you're creating is going to work cross-device. And maybe consider a series of games. So especially if you're spending quite a lot of budget on this, it might be that you want to do a series of them, and then as each game goes along, you'll take more learnings from it and you'll be able to implement those into the next ones. The don'ts. Don't be too salesy. This is not a sales exercise. This is a brand engagement and building a relationship exercise. Don't make it too complicated. You'll turn them off. Don't data capture too early. Unless you've got a really amazing prize where you literally have to sign up immediately, think about when you might want to data capture. Don't try to appeal to everyone. And then whose game? We've got some stats here, which is in the full report that you can download around the different audience types and the different types of games that people are interested in. So it goes further than engagement, though. It humanizes your brand. So remember, it's helping your brand to seem more of a personality as opposed to a sales tool. It can give you the insights into your customers. And there can be ROI. So actually, a game that we're doing at the moment, we have got tracking all the way through to the tills so that the prizes people win, we're going to be able to see, are people redeeming them in store, and actually, is it driving that traffic at the end of the day? But ROI isn't your number one metric for this. It really is around engagement. GDPR, that horrible four-letter word that we all still keep talking about, it's a great way to generate data and compliant data, and especially if it's a game where people are going to need to sign up and save their progress. And it's the relationship building. So to conclude, games are highly engaging and really can create a positive effect on consumer behavior. If you want to pop over to our stand, we are literally just along there, and we've got some games on the stand. We also have loads of sweets, but you can come and actually try out one of our games, and we can show you some more examples of other games. Now on to questions, I'm guessing. So, thank you.
So yes, we have a couple of questions. What is the easiest way to start with gamification with very little budget?
So the easiest way to start is probably using some of the social platforms. So actually Instagram's made it really easy through the stories to be able to put questions and polls and activities on there. And you see brands like BBC News are putting quizzes on there at the end of the week, that type of thing. So that's the easiest, cheap way to start with it and see what kind of engagement you get.
Okay. Would gamification work for sectors which aren't generally considered like fun, like insurance? Any examples?
Yes, definitely. So we work with a client that is an email encryption business, so not necessarily fun and exciting. And we're actually creating an educational game at the moment that will allow you to do kind of real or no real between a dodgy email and a real email to try and help educate people. So not so fun as Find 50, but actually great for their customer base, and also great for a PR piece around the education, because so many people get fooled by dodgy emails.
And does gamification work for all demographics?
I think it does. I think from the stats, and if you download the full report, the young are the most engaged, but I think if you get the game right and you promote it in the right way, at the older age groups, you definitely still can have engagement.
We have a new question around what's the starting point for budgeting?
So it really does depend. I mean, we make bespoke games, so I would say minimum 10 grand budget to kind of start. But there are games out there that you can get off the shelf. The only thing with that is whether they'll be able to do everything you want from a tracking point of view and a data point of view, etc. So it really does depend, but that's kind of our starting point.
And finally, could you provide an example of a big brand currently using this technique?
So we are just about to launch with Betfair some Find 50s, so similar to the one that we've done. So we're going to be launching for 5 top football clubs across Europe. So keep your eyes open. I think some of them are launching this month. So that's, they're using it. And actually, interestingly, as a gambling business, they are not interested in the data. They can't promote themselves. They are purely doing this for engagement, to get their social audience engaged and having a bit of fun with their brand and remembering their brand.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you all so much for listening, and pop along to our stand just along there and grab some sweets. Thank you.